Everyone knows about Grand Theft Auto 5, right?
Yes! Woo!
Well, in case you've been living under a rock for the past few years, Grand Theft Auto 5 is a very violent game where, well, lots of things can happen. Here are some examples. The game was one of the most successful games to ever come out on console. However, that was not without some backlash. Beyond just involving crime and violence, the game was highly criticized for the way that it depicted women, objectified them, and had violence towards them. In this video, we're going to be talking about how GTA 5 and Rockstar Games took their treatment of women a little too far. In order to do so, we first need to talk about the specific examples where we see violence and objectifying natures towards the women in the video game. I think the best place to start and the first thing that we should talk about in the game is the strip club in the online version of the game known as Vanilla Unicorn. At this strip club, players have the options to pay with virtual money for what the game calls private dances, and if they treat the woman well enough, they can either get her phone number so they can meet up with her later. Another example of when women are objectified in GTA 5 is when they are represented as hookers. There are certain spots around the maps that players can go to pick up one of these women who will then go for a drive with the player and do sexual favors for them in exchange for more virtual money.
I feel like I can really talk to you. Come back and see me?
And if you're upset about the money you just lost to pay her, you don't have to worry because you can then go out, kill that same prostitute, and take the money that you had just given her so you don't lose any. And in some weird way, if that's still not enough for you, how about you take a selfie so you can remember this terrible experience? These are just two of the many examples in Grand Theft Auto 5 where players have the opportunity and do treat women terribly, are violent towards them, and objectify them in the game. Now, one might argue that the game is violent towards both male and female characters, and as true as that might be, the game does focus more on the women's looks and physical appearances rather than anything else. You can even hear some of the in-game dialogue referring to this and these such objectifying slanders. In today's day and age especially, it is very important that we're teaching kids and adults and young adults from a young age that it is important to respect both men and women and treat them equally. In this game, it is very fair to say that women are treated much more poorly than the men are, and that sets a very bad example for players alike. This kind of violence even has some implications in the real world. In the Washington Post's article titled, "What Happens to Boys Who Kill Women in Video Games?" they speak about how violence against women in Grand Theft Auto 5 can affect people in real life. The article states that sexist games may shrink boys' empathy for female victims, as well as that violent games may nudge players closer to the mindset of the character they control. Brad Bushman, a professor of communication and psychology at Ohio State University, stated that you're making the person shoot and stab and kick and hit. In the short term, it's much harder to adopt the perspective of the victim. The violence, sexism, and objectivity towards women is so bad in Grand Theft Auto 5 that the game was even banned in Australia. 3 women who had been survivors of violence launched a petition to remove the game from store shelves across Australia. The petition received more than 40,000 signatures and the game was removed from shelves of many stores, including Target. The removal of the game, however, did cause lots of controversy because some people believed that the game should not be removed even though it did have the violent nature, while others believe that the violent nature is the reason that it should have been removed in the first place. To dive a little bit deeper into the misogyny that is Grand Theft Auto 5, one has to realize that the 3 main characters in the game are also all male characters. Another aspect of the game is that any female characters in the game are, as you would call, side characters and were created with less detail. There was a lot of research and studying done as to why these were deliberate choices by Rockstar Games, and it had come out that the reason behind this was that the company believed that most of their players would be male, thus the male characters would more likely relate to male characters in the game rather than playing as female characters. The entire Grand Theft Auto series is a violent set of games by nature. People play Grand Theft Auto 5 because they know it's violent and they want to enjoy everything that comes with it. People play the games for the violence, and when there are some things that happen that they maybe are a little bit uncomfortable with, they let it slide because they enjoy the game. However, this should not be the case because there are multiple cases in the game where violence and misogynistic behaviors towards women are way too out of hand, and they shouldn't treat the female characters any differently than the male characters. In the end of the day, Grand Theft Auto 5 is a fun and exciting game to play. However, when the attitudes towards women causes lots of violence and can have real life implications, is it really that great of a game? Ask yourself.